Good evening, dear friends, and welcome to day 215 of a poem a day for 2026. It's Monday. Woke up this morning with banging headache. Felt super wobbly. The headache is still there. And very wheezy. My inhaler this morning seemed to help, although I have had a big coughing fit. About 2 hours ago. It's about 6:15. I ended up logging off work early because the coughing fit made everything hurt, so I was like, I'm done. And very much wanted to just crash, but knew I had to get. Remember that thing I've been trying to post for ages? Important documents. Realised because I needed an envelope, needed it weighing, wanted to send it recorded post. Realised there's a post office just down the road from me. I'm not the most mobile being, and it looked like it was a lot closer than it was, and I totally forgot that when I was out over the weekend doing the shopping and stuff, that my foot and ankle was really painful. So I got like a third of the way down the hill, and it went, "Hi, remember me?" And I was fighting time because, excuse me, the post office was due to close, and I had to kind of get a shuffle on, and I nearly fell over in the road, but I made it. I got everything sent. And I opted to get a cab home. I got an Uber home, and it cost me like £2.50. And it was worth every penny, because I fear that I probably would still be walking up the hill. And it's actually really warm outside, so yeah. But I've also rebooked blood test, and yeah, in amongst feeling like heck today, I've actually done a bunch of things that I can tick off my to-do list in the kitchen, so that's nice. Gonna go and do that once I finish here. But yeah. But like I always say after I do a roundup, we're not here to listen to my doings and my comings and goings. We're here for poetry, aren't we? So let's see what the start of the week holds for us, because it is the start of the week. It's a name I recognise. So for the 3rd of August, we have On the Grasshopper and Cricket by John Keats. So our blurb reads as follows. Keats, in this sonnet about summer and winter, finds that there is poetry in the sounds of his environment. The grasshopper chirrups throughout the summer. The cricket sings his song in the colds of winter. But, all the year round, the poet finds joy in the music of the natural world. So, this is On the Grasshopper and Cricket by John Keats. The poetry of earth is never dead. When all the birds are faint with the hot sun and hide in cooling trees, a voice will run from hedge to hedge about the new mown mead. That is the grasshopper's. He takes the lead in summer luxury he has never done with his delights, for when tired out with fun, he rests at ease beneath some pleasant weed. The poetry of earth is ceasing never. On a lone winter evening, when the frost has wrought a silence, from the stove there shrills the cricket's song, in warmth increasing ever, and seems to one in drowsiness half lost, the grasshoppers among some grassy hills. Kind of a yin and yang situation. Two halves of a whole, but being wholes themselves. I am deeply intrigued by both grasshoppers and crickets, but I am very cautious of them, because I know that if they come inside, they disappear very quickly, and then you're stuck with these wonderful sounds in your house that you cannot locate. Many years ago, on a similar vein, I had a beautiful bearded dragon. He used to belong to one of my brother's friends. They were very lads. This dragon was called Studley. Yeah, they were young men who were very boys. Brother's friend and his girlfriend fell pregnant, and the girlfriend, I think, had never been a fan of Studley, and was concerned about the salmonella that bearded dragons can carry, and that possibly affecting the child, and wanted it out of the house. So my brother's friend came to my mum. We were all still living at home at the time. Was like, all of my brother's friends affectionately called my mum Ma. Our house was often the hangout house, and he was like, Ma, can Studley maybe come and stay with you for a while? He's like, I'm gonna talk around. It's fine. I'll take him back. He's like, but if I can get him out of the house now, he's like, I think it would just really help. And Mum was like, he's like, I'll pay for his food, and like, I'll chip him with the electric because there's a heat lamp and everything. And she was like, sure. So we rejigged the living room, and this very large vivarium moved into our living room and kind of became the focal point of the family room. And this little lizard, like 15, 16-year-old me was in their element. I loved stuff like that. I had always dreamed of owning a snake, so this was wonderful. Fed him fruit, gave him little baths, let him out to run around the living room, and him and my big fat ginger cat became really good friends. My brother's friend never managed to reconcile the girlfriend and the lizard, so Studley stayed with us indefinitely. And when we all left the family home, Studley came with me. I cared for that dear lizard for, goodness, I think he was 2 or 3 when we got him, and I think he passed at about 12 years old. And I've just remembered why I was telling this story. Moved into a shared house with Studley and my then boyfriend, and his main source of food were locusts. live locusts, which you can buy in little plastic tubs from pet food stores, garden centres, that kind of thing. And generally, because it had sliding glass panels for the doors of his tank, slide the panel, open the edge of the box, and kind of like chuck in a bunch of things, close the glass, put the lid back on. On one occasion, one of these large blue-legged locusts opted to hop out of the tank before I got the glass closed, and it got under my divan bed. It got inside the box divan. It was the middle of summer, and it kept me and my boyfriend at the time awake. It lasted. I think he eventually had to cut the divan open because it had been like a week and a half, and it would start chirping at about 2 o'clock in the morning. And we couldn't get it. And I got home from work one day, and it had been a really warm day. And I entered our room, and there was stuff everywhere. And he looked kind of like a mad scientist. His glasses were slightly askew. His hair was all over the place. He was very sweaty, and he was like, "I got it." And I was like, "Are you okay?" And it turned out he'd got one of our housemates down to help him, and they'd taken apart the bed, and they'd got it. And I was like, "You didn't feed it to the lizard, did you?" I was like, "Because we don't know what it's been eating while it's been under the..." He's like, "No. He's like, "We just got rid of it." I was like, "Okay." But yeah. Somehow I always have a story. As I often say to my friends, I have lived a life. That does usually accompany a more downward tone, because I have lived a life. But it's nice to be able to say that with a more comical story, and reminisce about my sweet prickly son. I do hope one day to have the space and the means for another beardie. They're just wonderful creatures with such wonderful personalities. Yeah. Now I'm gonna go and crash. I've got some veg to chop up and some spicy chicken sausages, and I'm gonna coat them in herbs and spices and a little bit of oil and throw them in the oven and set a timer, and I'm gonna lay on the sofa until it's done. And I'll see you tomorrow. I hope that Monday evening is kind to you. I hope Monday has been kind to you all. And here we are, off on another adventure of a week. And here's hoping that when we get down to it, we will all have a very good